So this morning we discussed the first point, equalizing self with others. And we were also discussing about the second point, how selfish attitude, self-centeredness is the very root of all the problem and all the sufferings. So understanding, recognizing that will help us to overcome the problems by overcoming the root of those problems, and open our mind, our heart space to generate through love, compassion, and bodhicitta mind. As long as there is that kind of strong selfish attitude, self-centeredness, then it becomes impossible to really grow, to be able to grow the real true love and compassion, bodhicitta mind. And as again I have mentioned this morning, and Shantideva mentions, we have to understand, we all human beings, all sentient beings, as being part of one wholeness. It's like one body. There's many, parts. The head, and the body, the legs, the feet, and even the feet is not the hand, even the hand is not the brain, even the brain is not the heart, even the heart is not, but they all are part of one body and connected to each others. And so taking care of each part is taking care of everything whole. If you neglect one, if you don't take care of one, then it will have effect to the others. If there is something damaged to our brain, then many parts of our body will not be able to function properly. If something happened to our heart, then again, many parts of other body will not be able to function. So it has a negative impact on that. And it is the same, all sentient beings, especially here, as a human beings in this world, If your neighbor country is happy, peaceful, these countries will be also more better, peaceful situations. And as we have seen during those pandemic, economic, how COVID in one country affected the whole world, because we are interconnected. And equally, that will be same if there is a recession in one of the countries, that will not only affect that country, it will affect the whole world, So taking care of others is taking care of yourself, As someone whom we dislike, if they are more happy, they will be less destructive. When they are more unhappy, then that is when they become more destructive. And that is same with us, We harm others less when we are more peace, calm, happy in our life. When our mind is not happy, when our mind is disturbed, more likely we will engage in a more harmful behavior and actions and attitude, And that is the same. And so wishing and the others, even someone whom we dislike, wishing them to find peace, happiness, is much better than wishing them to have a miserable, you know. Because if they are more miserable, they are going to create more havoc, more problem in the world. When they are more happy, they create less problems. And that we see, whether it's a human, whether it's animal, everything's like that, you know. And so with that understanding, then that is where Shandeva tried to explain for us to understand, you know, because sometimes we feel like taking care of someone, others is like giving up our own well-being, but actually is taking care of your own well-being by product. As Lama Tsongkhapa said in his Lamrim Chemo, you know, the Bodhichitta mind is such, even though your intentions is to be help and benefit to others, you have no intentions that you are cultivating that thought and working for your own happiness, but your only intention is to be kind, compassion, to help, to benefit to others, and bring help, benefit to others. By product, it brings happiness to yourself. Not because you wish for that, but it just comes by product. And so therefore, as His Holiness Dalai Lama always says, you know, if you want to be selfish, be wisely selfish. And he says, being wisely selfish is cultivating true love, compassion, bodhicitta. Because when you develop such true love, compassion, and sense of concern, and cherish others' well-beings, you know, by products, you know, you create cause and conditions for your own happiness. Even though you have no motivation to create cause and condition for your own happiness, but it just happens. You know, when you engage in such compassionate attitude and compassionate actions, you create so much virtue, so much merit, whether you wish or you don't wish, whether you have the intention or whether you don't have intention, it creates naturally. And that is the cause of your own happiness. It brings happiness, you know, it brings closer to ultimate happiness of enlightenment. Whether you wish or not, whether you think about it or not. When you cultivate the true love, compassion, bodhicitta, you are getting closer and closer to ultimate happiness of enlightenment. Even you don't think about it. Even you don't want it, it will lead towards that. It's like, you know, some of the Bodhisattvas' attitude. Some of the Bodhisattvas, you know, their compassion is so strong and their courage is so strong, they don't want to achieve enlightenment until each and every sentient being is lead to the enlightenment. They want to be the last to achieve enlightenment. But the reality is they achieve the enlightenment first. Because that doesn't follow what you wish, it follows the cause and conditions. No, it follows the cause and condition. By cultivating such an incredible compassionate attitude, love and compassion, you create so much virtue, so much merit. And it leads towards that, you know. And so, on the other hand, we want to achieve enlightenment quickly like this. But we cannot, you know, because we have to create the cause and conditions. And so that is the key. And so, yeah, so we are talking about as the Lama says, being selfish wisely. The normal way of being selfish is unwise. No. And that's why, because we follow the ordinary, unwise, selfish attitude, self-centeredness, and always wish for our own happiness, always wish for our own well-being. And we have always tried to do that, and still we are in samsara, we are still full of suffering, full of problems, hasn't led where we want to be. On the other hand, the Bodhisattvas, they work for the benefit of others. They dedicate their life to others. And then, by product of that, they themselves achieve enlightenment and more quickly. And fulfill others and their own happiness, everyone's well-being, everyone's happiness. So I think that, Shantideva was that example of the body being as a one whole. Everyone is part of that one whole body. Taking care of each part of the body is crucial for happiness for the goodness of the whole body and each part. And same, having that understanding, can be very helpful, beneficial for us. Because a lot of time we think, oh, this is not my problem, it's their problem, his problem. That's how we feel. This is not my problem. This is not my, is their problem. As though that we are totally disconnected, isolated, that their problem will not affect us. But reality is not the case. We have seen, we have experienced, seen in the world, So feeling sense of that oneness, one wholeness is very important part of this meditations, One, same, equal, one wholeness. And then trying to reduce the selfish attitudes or ego mind as much as possible by understanding how that is the root of all our problem and sufferings. Through their understanding, trying to reduce and remove that kind of selfish attitude, that self-centeredness. At the moment, we protect that self-centeredness, that ego all the time. At the moment, we regard that our ego, that our selfish attitudes as precious, and we try to protect it in every way. In this practice, when you try to practice on bodhicitta, loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, mind training, is how to crush that ego. It's about crushing that ego, And therefore, for such practitioner, when someone criticizes that practitioner and behave in a negative way or bad way, that hurts their ego. They feel so they regard that person's and that person's actions as a precious because it helped them to crush their ego. And that is the purpose of meditating. That is the purpose of practicing, is to crush your ego. But for us, if you are not true practitioner, then it's the opposite. How can you hurt my ego? You hurt my ego. And you will try to protect that ego. But all the practice is actually to crush that ego. Because when there's less ego, when there's less that selfish attitude or ego, you are more happy. You can get along with others better. You will have less problem with people around you. Because a lot of time it's a clash of egos. A lot of problems that we have in the world is a clashes of the egos. Two ego being clashed. So when there is no ego from one side, even the other one's ego, there's no two ego to clash to make it very worse. And as I mentioned before, when there's no more ego, you don't feel and get hurt by their actions and behavior. And that is wonderful. If you don't get hurt and if you don't feel hurt, no reason to be unhappy, no reason to suffer. And that does not allow, when you don't feel hurt, then it doesn't allow the other negative thoughts and feeling, such as anger, hatred, ill will feelings, hurtful feelings to arise. If they do not arise, then your mind is much more calm, peaceful, and you don't create more negative karma. Neither you harm others, neither you get hurt, neither you create hurt to others. So it helps and benefit everyone. On the other hand, if my due to my ego, if I feel hurt, then not only I feel hurt, then that feeling of hurt make me unhappy, suffering. Not only that, and that they give rise to those negative thoughts, feelings, emotions such as anger, hateful feelings, and so forth. And not only have that feeling a lot of time, then one will act those feelings. And that bring harm, something harmful to someone else as well as yourself. So therefore, all the Kadamba master says, in whatever way, try to pour all your energies, all your effort to destroy and crush that ego, that selfish attitude. When you get hurt, recognize that we are hurt. Recognize, being aware and recognizing we are being hurt. Not only recognizing and being aware that hurt, then, I'm hurt because of my ego, because of my selfish attitude, because of my ego. At the moment, I'm hurt because of his or her actions or attitude. That is how immediately we point the finger there. So now we learn through practice. We learn to point the finger towards our own ego. Why I'm feeling hurt? I'm feeling hurt because of that ego, because of that selfish attitude. The moment you do that, you don't have to blame the other persons. If you don't blame the other persons, you don't have to get upset and angry to that person. And wouldn't it be wonderful if we don't have to get upset and angry, hateful, you know? So anytime we experience any kind of suffering, problems, pain, difficulties, challenges, you know, always, oh, I'm experiencing whatever I'm experiencing, all these challenges, all these problems, all these difficulties, all this suffering, because of my ego, because of my ego mind, because of my selfish mind. And therefore, you know, if I don't want such problem, if I don't want such sufferings, such difficulties in the future, I had to work with my mind to reduce and overcome this selfish attitude that equals to mind. And trying to, whatever different practice, method, meditations, resources, tools you have, you try to apply all the tools, all the technique, all the meditations to crush and destroy that selfish attitude, that self-centeredness. And when there's no more that kind of selfish attitude, self-centeredness, then it becomes so easy to cultivate true love, compassion, bodhicitta mind, because there's no interference, obstacle for the growth of those such realizations. At the moment, we are unable to develop those realizations or unable to grow those realizations because of such interference or obstacles of that selfish attitude that equals to mind. And check it, you know, whenever we feel, you know, hurt due to someone's actions, behavior, attitude, really check it. Will I feel hurt if I don't have that ego? You know, check it yourself. Am I feeling hurt because of my ego or not? You know, find out yourself. Check in yourself. Look deeply inside, so that we can recognize, not because Shantideva said, Buddha said, because in this scripture says, but to be able to verify with our own experience. Verify with our own experience, with our own personal observations, personal awareness. So then those teachings become real, you know. So when you hear those teachings, you have no doubt, no two-minded, no doubt, absolutely, you know, absolutely that is true. And that is being verified by your own personal experience and observations. And so that is, you know, one of the meditations that we can do, you know, apply in our everyday life is whenever we have that kind of feelings, hurtful feelings, so Just check it. Why I'm feeling that way? Why? Where did that come from? Where does that feeling come from? You know, would I feel that way if there's no ego? You know, is that coming from ego or not? You know, so trying to do that kind of exercise, that kind of meditation practice can be helpful to really have more profound or deeper understanding of that subject. And that is why, you know, Okay. Then the third point of that meditations is contemplation and meditation on the benefit or the advantage of cherishing thought for others. The shortcoming of the selfish attitude and the benefit and advantage of cultivating the cherishing thought for others. Because the more we understand and the more we are aware and the more we feel that cherishing thought for others is the root of all the happiness, then, you know, we will be again more inspired, more encouraged to full effort to cultivate that mind. Again, as Shandeva said, Namtsongkhapa also says, you know, all the happiness is a result of cherishing thought for others. Without the cherishing thought of others of bodhicitta mind, there is no enlightenment. The happiness of enlightenment. Without cherishing thought, there is no liberations. Without cherishing thought for others, there is no higher rebirth. The happiness of higher rebirth, happiness of liberation, happiness of full enlightenment, they all come through cherishing thought for others. From Buddhist point of view, you know, higher rebirth is the result of your own moral discipline, practice of moral discipline and generosity, mainly the moral discipline, supported, you know, in terms of precious human rebirth, you know, then supported by the generosity and pure dedication of prayers. And the moral discipline, the core practice of moral discipline is to avoid or refrain from hurting and harming others through our body, speech, and mind. That is what the practice of moral discipline is. You know, the very if we kind of summarize it roughly, it is kind of avoiding or reframing 10 non-virtuous actions, engaged in 10 virtuous actions. Why we restrain or reframe, avoid from engaging in 10 non-virtuous actions? Because those 10 non-virtuous actions bring suffering and pain and hurt to others and oneself. You don't want to take others' life because you hold others' life precious as you hold your own life. Because you cherish their life. You cherish others' life. Just as you cherish your life, you cherish others' life. And therefore, you don't want to take others' life because you cherish them. You know? Just as if someone steals your belongings, your things, you will be upset, hurt. Same way, you don't want to take away someone's thing that is not given or steal someone's, because if you do that, it will hurt that person. You will make that person unhappy. You will make that person upset, unhappy. You will hurt. So you don't want to hurt that person. Therefore, you don't want to do action that hurt that person, such as stealing. That means you cherish other person's feelings, other person's well-being. That's why. And same with, whether it's sexual misconduct, whether it's lying, engaging in divisive speech, whether it's engaging in harsh speech, meaningless, idle gossips, or whether it's engaging, having a covetous mind, just as like, if someone has thought of wanting your, things you cherish and you want that, because you're so attached to it, you wouldn't want to let it go, so therefore, if someone tried to do that, feel that way, you will feel bad. And so same way, the covetous feelings, ill will feelings, wrong views, because we don't want to hurt and harm others. And that not wanting to hurt and harm others come through cherishing others' feelings, others' well-beings. And that practice, that practice is the root of the whole Buddhist practice. Whatever path you choose, Bodhisattva path or non-Bodhisattva path, still the very root of all those practice is that, based on that, on minimum level, we don't hurt others. On top of that, if we can help benefit, that is wonderful. That is Bodhisattva's path. But even you cannot help and benefit others, at least do not hurt and harm others. At least do not hurt and harm others. And that idea, that practice is best why one shouldn't hurt and harm others is because you cherish them or their feelings, their well-beings. Just as you don't want to be hurt by others, just as we don't want to be hurt by others, same way we don't want to hurt others. Just as we don't want to be harmed by others, same way we try to not to hurt and harm others. And that feeling of not wanting to hurt and harm others is based on that, compassion, that based on that cherishing for others and their feeling and so forth. So you can see how, the happiness of high rebirth, that is the result of practice of strong moral discipline, comes through cherishing thought for others. Therefore, cherishing thought is the cause of such happiness. Same, in order to have a, individual liberation, arhat, if you want to achieve, lasting individual true lasting freedom, happiness from all the suffering, samsara. Again, to do that, then you need to have a strong practice of, wisdom, meditative concentration, and strong foundation of moral discipline. Without those three practice, strong practice of them, without those realizations, spiritual experiences, one will not be able to achieve that. And therefore, that moral discipline, which is the foundation of all other two practices, and all these are crucial to achieve individual liberations, is again rooted in the cherishing thought for others. And in terms of the fully enlightenment, the ultimate happiness of fully enlightenment, there's no way that we can achieve fully enlightenment without the bodhicitta mind, without the cherishing thought of bodhicitta mind. So therefore, one of the great Indian masters, Chandrakirti, as he said in his commentary, the middle way, the arhats of the solitary realizers and the hearer comes through the Buddhas, because the Buddha teach how to achieve liberation. He showed the path, how to achieve the liberations. And those practitioners follow the practice. And by following the practice, by actualizing, by training in the practice, then they are able to achieve the liberation, the arhat. So it's a result of the Buddhas and Buddha's teachings, the path shown by the Buddha. And Buddha himself is a result of Bodhisattva. First, become Bodhisattva, and then as you make progress in the path, then eventually you become Buddha. He wasn't Buddha from the very beginning. The Buddha wasn't Buddha from the very beginning. Buddha was just like ourselves at one time, with full of delusions, with full of faults. But slowly, he, over the years, lifetimes, he practiced and transformed his mind, cultivate loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind, become a bodhisattva. And then, enter the path, bodhisattva path, and 5 paths and 10 bhumis, and engage in practice as 6 perfections and 10 perfections. And eventually he achieved that enlightenment. So the bodhisattvas, the Buddhas arise or come through the bodhisattva. And the bodhisattvas arises come through, the non-duality, wisdom, great compassion, and bodhicitta mind. So without bodhicitta mind and great compassion, there is no bodhisattva. Without bodhisattva, there is no Buddha. And there is no happiness Buddha. So therefore, again, as he mentioned there, that fully enlightened state, fully awakened state, the happiness of fully enlightened state, the ultimate happiness comes through that bodhicitta mind. So therefore, the cherishing thought for others is the root of such happiness. And even if we look in this lifetime, forget about fully enlightenment. Maybe that seems a little bit abstract for us at the moment. Seems nice idea, good idea, but seems like it's quite abstract. Even enlightenment or nirvana also seems a little bit far away. Even a little bit abstract, feel like that. Maybe even in the higher rebirth sometime for some, even that's seems like question mark, whether there's a rebirth or not, whether there's life after life or not. So even sometimes for certain individuals, it is still question mark, So even though that is not question mark for a lot of people, it is question mark for some people. So, even we don't think of all of that, even we don't consider all of that, even we think of just one lifetime, even just lifetime, if you really want to be happy, then we need to have the more cherishing thought for others, such as loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind, more stronger you have, the more happier you are, more friends you have, less conflict you have with everyone. You can go anywhere, you can be with anyone, and you have less conflict. You have less conflict. Of course, when you have less conflict, you are more happy. The more conflict we have, the more unhappy we are. The more we have conflict, the more we fight with each other, the more disturbed our mind is, the more unhappy our life becomes. The more peaceful we are, the more harmony we are, the more we get alone better with others, the more happier we are, more peaceful we are. Less distrust, less distrust to others, less worry, less fear. In a lot of time, we have a lot of fear, worry, distrust about others, what they might do, all of that. And when we have all this kind of fear and worry, then that makes our life unhappy, stressful. When we have so much of that kind of worry and fear, sometimes you can't even sleep well, overwhelmed by that kind of anxiety, panic, worry, fear. So you have less fear, less stress. And when you have less stress, less fear, of course you are more happy, emotionally, mentally. Not only emotionally, mentally, that also has a positive impact on your body. You will have a more healthy bodies, because you have less stress, less worry, less fear. Anywhere you go, you can be easily friendly with someone. You can find friend easily. You can make friend easily. Because you don't have that kind of fear or distrust, all of that. Because when we have that, then that creates some kind of boundaries to open ourselves and to be friendly easily. And so you don't have to feel lonely. At the moment, we are surrounded by a lot of people, we still feel lonely. People feel lonely, even maybe they live in one of the biggest cities, surrounded by thousands. The moment you get out of your room, you see people, but still feel like you are lonely. Because there is some kind of we are unable to open to others and be friendly with each others. But when we have that cherishing thought for love, compassion, true sense of love, compassion, cherishing thought for others, you will have less problem with that. You will have less problem with that. So your life becomes much more happier. And it attracts, like any energies, negative energy attract negative energy, positive energy attract positive things. In general, when you have that kind of positive feeling, thought, emotion, loving kindness, compassion, cherishing for others, it attracts people like that, more people like that. On the other hand, when you're angry persons, you are likely to attract more people who are in that kind of environment, angry persons. And then you are easily angry, and persons around you easily angry, then your life is not going to be a peaceful, happy life. Always conflict. So that is, if we observe, if we pay attention, that is the reality. That is the reality. This is nothing complicating philosophy. It's our experience. It's our reality. And so therefore, cherishing thought for others is the root and cause of happiness. It's the root and cause of all different levels of happiness. All different levels of happiness. When we talk about happiness, we can talk of many different levels of happiness. And it is the root and cause of all those different levels of happiness. Since we all want happiness, and we do not want suffering, then we have to put effort to create the cause and condition for happiness, and to get rid of the cause and condition for the suffering. And that means, destroying the selfish attitude, the ego mind, that is the root of all the suffering, cause of all the suffering. Whereas cultivating, developing the cherishing thought for others, because that is the root of all the happiness, and we want the happiness. Because we want the happiness, and that is the root of happiness. That is the root of happiness for yourself, is the root of happiness for others. On the other hand, the selfish attitude equals is the root of suffering for yourself, root of suffering for others. The more ego I am, the more selfish I am, the more I will exploit others. The more I will have less concern about others' well-being. The less I will not, become careless, whether it hurts them or not hurt them, whether it brings suffering or not, as long as I can fulfill what I want. And so in that sense, through that kind of attitude, then we engage in a lot of action that brings hurt and harm and suffering to others. And also, it brings so much hurt and harm and suffering to ourselves, as we already discussed. On the other hand, the cherishing thought for others, when you're cherishing thought for others, loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, and other form of cherishing thought for others, it brings happiness for others, is the cause of happiness for others. When you have that kind of cherishing thought, you have more concern, for others, more affection for others. You are more concerned about the well-being of others, and you try to help and benefit in whatever way you can. Be helpful in whatever way you can. That is able to help them, that is able to make them good, help when they need. And that makes you feel good and happy because someone needed help and you are able to help. Someone needed help and you are able to help. So you feel your life meaningful, purpose, feel good about, happy about it. So it brings happiness to others, happiness to both oneself and others. It brings happiness to everyone. It's the cause of happiness of others and oneself. And you can see whether it's human being, whether it's animal, it's same with any sentient beings. When you are sense of true cherishing toward others, such as love, compassion, affection, true love, compassion, affections, when you express that, when you show that, when you have that, and you're able to, and the others feel that, they're very happy. Put them in such an ease. Especially like it is easy for us to notice with the animals, because they seem to sense more easily. They seem to have that kind of instinctive kind of more understanding than human beings in some way. And they can feel it. And when someone is loving, caring, compassionate, they can immediately you can feel them, how easy they become, how friendly they become, how they respond and react, On the other hand, when we have negative thoughts, feelings, and they can sense it, and then their reactions is very different, They become kind of, scared or unease. And when they are scared and unease, then the way they respond is, kind of not friendly. Not friendly. And that is same with human beings too, We all love someone who is loving and caring. We want loving and caring parent. We want loving and caring children. We want loving and caring friends. We want loving and caring teachers. We want loving and caring students. That's all we want. Nobody wants, uncaring, unloving, unkind partner, parents, children's, teachers, students, friends, anyone. And so, so if we want, loving, caring, compassionate family, friends, partner, whatever, because when we have that kind of caring, loving, compassion, because it brings us so much joy, happiness, ease, peace. So then we also try to cultivate that to be more kind, more compassionate, more loving, more caring to others. By doing that, it helps to bring them, it gives them others happiness, to feel that love, to feel that compassion, to feel that sense of caring, kindness. It gives them joy, happiness. It brings them joy and happiness in their life. it make them be very ease when they are around you, Instead of being very afraid, you don't have to be afraid, You can be ease, be yourself, And not only the other peoples get the benefit and be happy, but also by cultivating those, it also make you happy, as I mentioned before. So that is where, the third contemplation meditations is on the goodness, the benefit of meditating on the cherishing thought for others. As Lama Zopa Rinpoche says, the moment you cherish others, the true, real happiness starts from there. The moment you cherish for others, from that moment, then true happiness starts. The cause of true happiness starts. From that moment, you started to develop cause of true happiness and true happiness itself. So that is the third meditations. So maybe, I don't know, maybe I could take some questions now, since so any questions from this morning and now? Yes, please.
So, as we were saying, you can't be, well, first comes the Bodhisattva, then the so having this cherishing of others seems like a more fundamental step on the path to awakening than maybe the other wisdom aspect on the nature of sentience. Can you ever have emptiness first or understand that wisdom and then go to the compassion, or always compassion first?
Yes. Again, that one great Indian master, Chandrakirti, he explained about, in order the bird to fly over the oceans to the other shore, he needs the help of both wings. If there's a damage to one of the wings, the bird will not be able to follow to the shore of the oceans. Same way, in order to cross the ocean of the samsara and to reach the shore of fully enlightened, fully awakened state, we need the both wing of the wisdom and compassions. So they are equally important. We cannot ignore either of them. And same, in one of the sutras, I don't remember the name of the sutras, where Buddha, same thing, compassion without wisdom is bondage, compassion with wisdom is liberations, wisdom without compassion is bondage, and compassion with wisdom is liberations. So basically here he say, we need both wisdom and the compassions. Not only that, even in our everyday life, I think we find important both of that. To be help and benefit to others and yourself. If there's no compassion, we wouldn't even try to help. If you don't have compassion for yourself, you will not try to help yourself. You will not take care of yourself. If you don't have compassion for someone, you will not try to help them if they need help. So to be able to be help to yourself or others, you need compassion. But also we realize with our own experience, when you don't have wisdom, even you have the best intention to help, sometimes we are unable to help. In terms of intentions, there's no liking. You have the really true intention to help yourself or to help someone, But then we don't have enough wisdom. And skillful means we are unable to help, even we want to help. And to be really able to help and make the difference, not only we need the compassion thought wanting to help, but also the wisdom. And that also with that we realize, even in our everyday life, not only from a spiritual point of view, but even in our everyday life, we need both compassion and wisdom, the needs of both of them, the importance of both of them. So they play equally kind of role in achieving the full awakening state. In terms of cultivating which one first, it depends on individuals. In the scriptures, there is explanation. Certain bodhisattvas, they first have the wisdom realizing emptiness, and then afterwards they develop the bodhicitta mind. Then there are certain bodhisattvas, first cultivate the bodhicitta mind, and then they develop the wisdom realizing the emptiness. So, for the what they call, sharp faculty bodhisattvas, the bodhisattva with the sharp faculties, they have first realization of emptiness, and then generate the bodhicitta mind, because they analyze, investigate everything. Before you can even have a thought, the wish to achieve enlightenment, they analyze whether enlightenment is possible or not. In the process of analyzing whether enlightenment is possible or not, what is enlightenment, and what is enlightenment, and how it is possible or not. And when in that process, then you begin to understand the emptiness. Because in order to really understand that possible, then you have to understand the emptiness. And so first they have understanding of emptiness, realizing emptiness. Once they have realization of emptiness, then they see, enlightenment is possible. They understand what enlightenment is and how enlightenment is possible. Once they see the enlightenment possible, then they generate that wish to achieve enlightenment, driven by the great compassion. So for that faculty, sharp faculty bodhisattvas, first they have the realization of emptiness, and then they have then they cultivate bodhicitta mind. But for some other bodhisattvas who might not have that same kind of sharp faculty, maybe they have more, like, even individuals, some people are more kind of, heart, some people more mind, some people more thinking, some people more feelings, we see. And so for some, the emptiness part require a lot of thinkings, analyzings, and some people might have a little bit more challenge and difficult with that, but maybe they can feel more connected, easy to develop love, compassion, and bodhicitta mind because of the nature of the person, they are more kind towards that feeling. So maybe it's easy for them to cultivate the bodhicitta mind first, and then later cultivate the wisdom realizing emptiness. And so then it comes later. And for those who have difficulty with the emptiness, that can be also, when you have bodhicitta mind first, it can open and create better conditions to have the realization of emptiness, understanding and realizing the emptiness. Because as Arya Deva, one of the Nagarjuna's main disciples, in his 400 verses, as he's mentioned, for those who do not have enough merit, they wouldn't even have any doubt on the teaching on emptiness. They wouldn't even hear the teaching on emptiness. Even just to be able to hear the teaching on emptiness, it requires merit. And of course, to have a correct understanding and correct realization requires even more merit. And so when you have bodhicitta mind, you create so much merit, moment by moment. And because you are able to create through the power of that bodhicitta mind, so much merit, moment by moment, it creates a lot of obstacles and a lot of obscurations to have the correct understanding and realization of emptiness. And so then that can open to have a more quickly, more easily understanding and realization of emptiness correctly. That make possible through the bodhicitta mind. So, yeah. Yeah, so, yes, please. Okay, I'm coming, David, and yes.
Just thinking about that question in your response, it sounds like you're suggesting that there's one potential to develop one and the other, or vice versa. And maybe you can see, maybe this is more of a comment I'm kind of thinking about as I speak it, but it seems like, for example, reputation, when they were the Dharmas, the emptiness of kind of a lack of having this of a comment that somebody makes that might trigger my self-cherishing mind. It seems like there's also the potential for one to use the other as a develop both simultaneously, like using emptiness to develop compassion and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you could speak about a little bit? Is that not possible or?
Okay. Those who are the Zoom, are you hearing the questions? So maybe I don't know how to deal with that next time, because you are going to speak.
Hear.
Can you hear or cannot?
I can hear.
So it seems like most people doesn't hear, maybe. So again, maybe there is some.
People who ask questions take their mask off.
Okay, maybe that might. So maybe we might be able to find solution. Maybe not.
Yes.
So maybe next time whoever's asking question, if they can take the masks off. So whether that can make it a little better. But otherwise, yeah. So regarding the questions, whether instead of cultivating either the bodhicitta first and emptiness, wisdom realizing emptiness later, or wisdom realizing emptiness first and bodhicitta later, whether it can be cultivated simultaneously, where each of those practices supporting each other, and where, if I'm correct, is that the question? Yeah. Simultaneously. Well, I don't think you can develop simultaneous like that, in one moment together. But definitely, one can develop bodhicitta mind, maybe, few hours earlier, few days earlier, few weeks earlier, few months, few years earlier, and back, and then then emptiness, or the other way around. It is possible, and definitely a lot of those practices are very, interconnected. They are not isolated, and I feel that is good news for us. Because if we can have one realization, because they are related, it will be easy to have the next realization. For us, not having one realization is the problem. It's like, when you try to work with your puzzles, if you find one right word, then you can find all other words easily. And not being able to find the one word that can connect all other puzzles is the things, For us, that is the key. Not being able to find one word, that's the key to kind of open all other words of the puzzles. Once you find that, then it becomes easy because they are connected. The way is developed. And similarly, I think that is the same with the realizations, spiritual realizations. It will be much more easier to cultivate rest of the realization if we can develop one of the realizations. And as I mentioned, of emptiness and the bodhicitta mind, especially from the Bodhisattvas path point of view, when you meditate on emptiness, and through understanding of emptiness, the more the more you meditate on emptiness correctly, the more it reduces the intensity of the self-grasping mind. And the more you destroy the intensity of self-grasping mind, then indirectly, you also destroy to a certain level the selfish attitude as well. And through that, then it opens to cultivate, love, compassion, that in that way. So there is one connection that way, that how, meditating on emptiness can help to reduce the self-grasping thought, thereby selfish attitude, and thereby opening the space to cultivate love, compassion, bodhicitta mind, in one way. On the other hand, when we, meditate on bodhicitta, as I mentioned before, because you create merit, then again, that clear a lot of obstacles to have a realization of the emptiness. So it's supporting that, creating the condition, better conditions to have correct understanding, correct realization of emptiness, create that conditions, make it easier and more swift and quick in that because of better circumstantial conditions. Also, when we meditate on dependent arisings, when we meditate on emptiness and when we meditate on dependent arising, again, through that understanding of dependent arising, we begin to have better understanding of the dependent arising self and others, dependent arising self and others, and dependent arising of our happiness with others' happiness are our happiness, our suffering with other sufferings, how they are interconnected, interrelated with that. And through that, again, it helps us to cultivate the bodhicitta mind, easy, equalizing and exchanging self with others more easily. So it opens up also for that. So definitely each of those different meditation can support each meditations and to have the realization of each of them. But definitely, it's not that you are going to have it simultaneous, like in one instant, both realizations. So that is Yeah, but definitely one of those realizations will definitely help to open the other realization more easily and more quickly and swiftly. And that is because of, again, that the interconnection between those practice. They are not isolated practice. They are, each of those practices are related with others. So, yeah. Yes.
Thank you, Geshe. You may have partially answered my question, but I've been told that one should not seek out opportunities to help others, because in the beginning stages it would be superficial, maybe even artificial, and wouldn't have much impact anywhere, but should wait for the opportunities to present themselves in a natural way. I find this doesn't make complete sense to me, because I feel that one needs to be practicing in order to be ready for the opportunity when it arises. But could you speak to that, please?
Mm-hmm. Did you hear the questions? Yeah. Some are nodding and some are nodding yes, and some are nodding no. So I guess
Can you repeat it?
it is hard for me to repeat, but anyway, I will try to summarize.
I can repeat it even longer if you like. To me, this is really loud. But...
Yeah. Yes, I can hear the questions. So I think the questions is, she heard or she has been told that you shouldn't be, unless the opportunity come by itself of to help, you shouldn't be kind of go there out to help until you have developed yourself and practice and work yourself. So if I can talk a little bit on that, so that was, I don't know if I put that correctly or badly, but something like that. Definitely, we need to continue to work with our mind. We cannot neglect that, working with our mind, as you said, because if we don't work with our mind, even we try to help, it could be superficial. Sometimes it feels like that we are doing out of compassion, but maybe it is coming from a selfish attitude. Sometimes they are very subtleties, We feel like I'm doing because I want to help. But if we really look deeply, maybe sometimes there's more than that. Sometimes there is a subtle selfish attitude. So therefore, the point is we want to continue to work with our mind, and when we do try to help, it comes from true sense of true love, compassion, and not a selfish attitude. And also, without working with our mind, without training our mind, sometimes when we act on the basis of emotional, as I talk, things can turn to a bitter and very bad as well, because when the person's reaction changes, our mind changes and we become very bitter, upset, and angry. Feel like I was trying to help, and then instead of acknowledging, appreciating that person responds to me in that way, so then you feel like very upset and angry, and we don't want to be in that state. That's not a good state to be in. And that happens because we haven't trained and really cultivated true love, compassions. We are acting more from emotional compassion instead of that compassion that has been based on foundation, wisdom, and that we develop on training. So we have to continue to work on that to really, so that the other person's reactions or response does not change our attitude or our compassions, so that we need to. But again, even we are not perfect, and even we don't have full compassion at the moment, true compassion. But whenever there is an opportunity for us to be helped, and when there is need of help, I think we should try to reach. Otherwise, no one will try to reach each other, and everyone is waiting to become Bodhisattvas, and that might take many lifetimes. So, so therefore we all are waiting to become a Bodhisattvas before we can really go in the world and to help and benefit. And if we all are doing that, then nobody will try to reach out and help each other when there is need and when there can be help. So we try to be benefit with as pure as possible, with the best pure intentions. But sometimes it's hard to have that 100% pure intentions. So even we don't have 100% pure intentions, even if we have 80% of pure intentions, it's still, that's good. Even if we have 50% of pure intentions, I don't know, 50% pure intentions seems, seems like contradictions.
That's a very good marketing.
Not pure, but with a 50% of the pure. I don't know, maybe I'm not finding the right words to describe it. Even you cannot give with 100% selfless motivations. Even if you can give or help with 80% of selfless motivation, even though maybe there's 20% of selfish, still is good. Should listen. And even it's a 50-50, even there is 50% of wanting to help truly, and there is 50% of little selfish. Still, at the moment, a lot of time, we are 100% selfish, and we can't go from 100% selfish to 100% non-selfish. With any practice, everything, you improve and get better and better. From 100% being selfish to become 90% selfish is improvement. And from being 90% selfish to 80% selfish, still there's a long way to go, but still it is an improvement. And slowly, then that is how we go. Yes.
Just touching in on aspiring bodhicitta versus engaging bodhicitta.
Well, I think it is more of the caution that I understood is, even we don't have bodhicitta, even with the compassions, even in that level, should we help? Should we help? Even we are not perfect. Should we just walk with our mind and not get engaged there? Or should we engage there, even though we need to walk with our mind when we haven't still walked in our mind? So that is, I think maybe that was the caution. So that was the way I'm trying to kind of touch on. So yeah. So yeah. So yeah, that is my take on, I think, and so at the end, each of us have to make our own decisions and conclusions. That is the beauty of the Dharma. Buddha himself says, don't take it because I said so. Analyze it, investigate it. Through investigating, analyzing, you will find something meaningful, something helpful, take it. If you don't find helpful, meaningful, just leave it on the shelf. Just leave it on the shelf. And so same. And so again, we can learn, we can study, we can receive advice, instructions, all of that. But at the end, we have to use our own mind to see what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, all of that. For that, you need to have some good foundation of studies. Otherwise, if you don't have good foundation of studies, it will be much harder to make your conclusions. How are you going to make conclusions? But if someone has studied enough, then you have all different resources and informations, whatever commentaries, and then on the basis of those, then you try to see which particular explanations, commentaries, interpretations make more sense, or helpful. Yes, Venatandula.
There's a question in the chat.
Uh-huh.
I'm wondering about the possible impact of generating negative karma when criticizing someone's destructive, harmful behavior, as opposed to criticizing them as a person, or not liking them as a person because of their destructive, harmful behavior.
Mm-hmm. Again, in one of the sutras, Buddhas explain, kind of differentiating the person and person's actions. And same is kind of explained by Aryadeva in his 400 verses, how we should differentiate the persons and persons' actions. For the persons and persons' the person's delusions of the mind, and as long as we don't hold hostile feeling, such as bad feelings toward the persons, then if they engage certain harmful actions, I don't know in the English term when you say criticizing, whether it has to do with some negative emotion, motivation or not. I don't know exactly. If I'm pointing someone's fault, is that criticism or not? If I don't have the bad intentions, because I'm pointing the fact,
Constructive criticism?
Maybe, yeah. So again, I don't know the word criticism, whether it always has negative connotations, or it could have a positive. From constructive criticisms, it doesn't has to be, I guess, negative. So anyway, I think pointing out such harmful actions, so that those harmful actions can be stopped in whatever way, without that kind of hostile feelings and negative feelings, then I don't think it is creating a negative karma, especially you are not kind of exaggerating and distorting the facts and all of that, Of course, that is another big problem for us. What is fact, what is not fact? Because we depend on information, and information, what we believe is the fact, whether that is fact or not, so there is always that problematic in that something being, but at least within whatever knowledge from our investigation, from if we feel it is the fact, and pointing out those facts, so that it can be improved, so it can be situation can be improved, so that such harmful action can be stopped. We should do that. It should be encouraged. Actually, it is a Bodhisattva's vows to do that, and not to do it might be the breaking the vows. But the important is that without any hard feeling, negative feelings toward the persons, and cultivating compassion for the persons, at the same time taking the actions to stop such harmful actions. And there shouldn't be contradictions between those two, that act and feeling compassion for the persons. And not only it shouldn't be contradictions and conflict, that should be how it should be. So, yeah, so I think that, so whether we create negative karma or not, most time, it depends on our intentions, motivations. Intention, motivation, what is the motivating factors to take any actions? If we are criticizing someone, why we are criticizing, looking in our heart, what is the intention, motivations? Is it really because I want to stop such harmful actions, so less sentient beings suffer from that, including that person himself, herself, or it is because I dislike that person very much? Do you get it? Sometimes it is based on because I dislike that person, then that other one becomes just excuse for us. Do you get it? Excuse to kind of feel good of ourselves. And so, because that person's actions is harming this and that and this, but sometimes so that is something we have to watch ourselves, and something that we have to be more honest without looking deep inside and just really trying to find out from what state it is coming from, and trying to make effort that it come from positive state of mind, good state of mind, instead of negative state of mind. And because negative karmas, whether the actions become negative or positive or neutral, all depends on the intention, motivations. Yes, please.
Speaking about that, one can have positive motivation and intention, as I have been asked to say something, but one needs skillful means to do that, and courage to potentially face conflict from that. And so sometimes there may be a lack of, like, there's times where I'm like, I want to do it because I'm probably going to have pushback from my family, for example. I don't want to deal with what I'm going to get, so I just sort of leave it. So I'm not sure what that fits into this, but it's just what I was thinking about, as you're saying, it requires both courage to deal with what could potentially come your way, as well as skillful means to do it in a way that ideally reduce the potential for that conflict. But you can't have any control over somebody's response.
Yeah, absolutely. We cannot kind of control someone's response, and all we can do is try to have the best intentions and trying to find the wisdom and skillful means in whatever way we can. Even trying to find most skillful means, sometimes we might be able to do, sometimes we might not be able to find the best skillful means. It's always trying to find the best way to communicate, the skillful mean to communicate, the skillful mean to say or act, and the best or the good intentions to do that. And even after both of them, you with the best intention, according to your most best skillful means that you can think of, you can come out with, still sometimes things might not turn out the result that we wish, and then there's nothing we can do about it. Instead, maybe accept, karma, that we all, certain things we can only try our best. What outcome it will come, nobody can predict. It's hard to predict anything, what kind of outcome from that. And so we just, as you said, we have to be willingness and courage to accept the consequences of whatever outcome that might be. Even though we have the best wish to have the best outcome from that, sometimes the outcome can have the opposite effect, and so being courage and willingness to accept, whatever outcome it comes, you give your best intention and best skillful means according to your capacity. That's all we can do, yeah. Any questions? What's the time? Oh, we are already kind of over. So we'll have a tea break. And then we'll come at what, 3, yeah? Yeah, and so if you have more questions, please bring it in next sessions. Okay, thank you. Bye. There seems to be a couple of questions that I will take before I continue. Okay. Yeah, Anna?
I have a question related to tomorrow. That it said on the program that people can take refuge or the Bodhisattva vows. So I was wondering, how does one know if they're ready to take the Bodhisattva vows?
Okay.
It's going to be a question at the start of the session.
So, yeah, the question is, how do you know whether you are ready to take refuge or Bodhisattva vows? Because there was also another question about the refuge as well. First, maybe I was explaining in terms of the refuge vows. In our life, we have stages, early stages. We are exploring to see what spiritual path suit me, whether it's for me or not, whether it suit me or not, whether this is for me or not. And then after you have explored, for some people it might take more time, some people it takes less time to explore and to come to conclusions, saying this is the path that I feel connected, I feel this is path for me, and feel like you can commit to it, and you want to commit to it, then I think maybe that is time when you have come to that kind of understanding and conclusions that after the exploring and seeing, this is the path that suits me or my way of thinking, or and then I'm ready to kind of follow it and commit myself to that. Then I think in that stages, I think maybe you are ready to take a refuge. In terms of Bodhisattvas, of course, someone must have, taken the refuge, generally speaking, and then have studied and practiced over the years, knowing the Bodhisattva path to a certain kind of extent, and then, it is about whether you are ready to commit oneself to this Bodhisattva path, and of course, if we try to contemplate and see whether we can keep whether we can, sometimes we feel whether we are ready or not based on whether we will be able to keep those vows or not. Okay. Even though we have strong inclination, strong interest towards that, but sometimes we feel maybe I might not be able to keep it. And so we are hesitant and we are fearful of taking it, something that we feel that we might not be able to keep it perfectly or completely. So that is one reason for certain individuals to have that fear and resistance to engage. And to some extent, that is one way of thinking. Another way of thinking is, if we wait until we can keep them perfectly, then time never comes. And my understanding is we take the vows to improve ourselves. If you are able to keep those vows perfectly, you don't have to keep the vows. There's no need to take vows. For the Buddhas, there's no need to take the vows. The reason why we take the vows is so that become tools and help for us to be more mindful, more conscious, and to stop engaging certain harmful thoughts, emotions, negative thoughts, and actions and behavior. So we will not be perfect to be able to keep all the vows, but when we have vows, we make more effort, more conscious, more mindful than when you are not taking it. And with that tools, then we get better and better, and so that is the way to understand. I know one of Lama, Rinpoche, who was in our classmate, he was afraid to take full ordinations for a long time, and again, based on that he will not be able to keep them perfectly. And so he keep on postponing, thinking that after a few years, he will come to a place where he feel that he can keep them completely, purely. And it never arrived that, and then he decided to take it, even though, and because, as I mentioned, it's a tool to improve ourselves, Actually, when I was in North Carolina recently, attending some teaching empowerment from one of my teachers, with whom I study, in India since 90s, late 80s, early 90s. Normally he's in India, teaching the monks there. But he has visited a couple of times in the United States, and they have invited him, and so he was teaching North Carolina in one of the centers there. So in public, and then we also got to get some private teachings from him, oral transmission, private teachings. So anyway, when he was giving empowerment, and he explained, of course, when there is empowerment, there is a commitment, certain commitments, and so, and because there were some, again, certain students who have similar kind of, feelings, whether they are ready to take it or not, whether they will be able to keep the commitments or not. So, all these kind of different thoughts arises. And he explained, and it is also explained in some commentary as well. There was two lamas who were discussing. One lama was going to go to, another teacher was giving empowerment. He was going to go to the empowerment, and he told his friend, one of the teachers, I'm going for that empowerment. The other one says, I'm not going. And so I don't feel I can keep I don't think I can keep those commitments, and I'm not ready for that. And the other monks, the other teacher who was going to go to and get, he said, I know I will not be able to keep all of them, but I'm still going to go and receive it. He said, throughout our lifetimes, we have gone in the lower realms so many times, endlessly, by doing negative things. We haven't gone to lower realm by doing something, trying to do something positive. But this time, at least I'm trying to do something positive. I might not be able to keep it, but at least my intention is to improve. My intention is to get better by taking that. My intention is to keep them as well as possible. My intention is that good intention and something positive, virtues. And for that, even if I have to go for the lower realm, I'm willing to go there because I've already gone endless time for no purpose or bad purpose. And that argument has some points. That argument has some good point too. So there is different approach, you see, among different teachers, among the different practitioners. So then I think at the end we have to make our own decisions. So they both have their points. There are two different approach, and each of them have their own point. And so we individually decide, for me, which one suits better, what makes more sense to me or beneficial to me, basis on that, And again, as I always say, the beauty of Dharma is that it's such an individuals. It's not like everyone has to do this. There's always different approach, and you just see what approach, what technique, what particular meditations suit you, what particular is more effective to you, and on the basis of that, that is how we make we follow the path. And I think it comes to that same in making such decisions. Making such decisions, I think there's two approach, and so individually have to make their mind on basis of that. Yeah. And one of the advantage for the Bodhisattva vows compared to the tantric vows is that you can renew yourself all the time. Tantric vow, you cannot do that. If you break it, either you have to retake initiations from the lamas, to renew it, or you have to do self-initiation. And to do self-initiation, there's a lot of other requirements and all of that. On the Bodhisattva vows, that that you can renew by yourself every day. You can renew every day. So whenever we notice that we have not been able to keep them, we try to do purifications. Whatever purifications, we try to do purifications, and then we try to renew it. And that's how slowly we get better and improve. And it's good to recite those, at least the root vows every day, so that we're familiar with that. And And then know, when we are unable to keep it, then we become aware, and then we do the purification, renew and retake it. So, yeah, so, okay. Most welcome. Any other questions? Any other questions here or from the online? Is there any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Are you going to tell people who want to take Bodhisattva about what the requirements are going to be before they take it?
Before
Before they take the vows?
what are the vows?
Yeah, no. I'm asking whether or not, if someone's interested in taking Bodhisattva vows for the first time, are you going to tell them tomorrow what is going to be required of them before they take the initiation?
Not initiations.
Or
The vows. Yeah. I believe those who are trying, wanting to take for the first time, I think they must have done some self-studies. What are the vows? That is what those who are wanting to take for the first time, I believe they must have done some research or studies themselves. Because if we have to go through the whole vows, then it is going to be long times. I know that we did some class on the vows, Bodhisattva vows, by I think Geshe Soba, in this year, So I think there is that, and of course you can find, unlike like Tantra, Bodhisattva vows, even if you haven't taken it, you can read about it, you can study about it. Tantric vows, you cannot do that unless you have taken the vows, So someone has more access to do the more research and more studies on that. And of course, like, there is always, when I do the Bodhisattva vows, there are different traditions or different way of doing. Sometimes they offer both aspiring and engaging Bodhisattva together, and sometimes they offer inspiring Bodhisattvas precept first and then engaging the Bodhisattva vows later. And normally I do that way. So people have the options. If they don't feel they are ready to take the Bodhisattva vow itself, but they can just take the aspiring bodhicitta precepts that doesn't have those vows, the 18 root vows and 46 secondary vows and that. And so they can only take that one, or they can take both, the actual Bodhisattva vows. And that is the part of the engaging Bodhisattva vows. So there is always that options, because we do the two ceremony separately, one after another. So that will be the case. And for those who want to take for the first time, I'm always reluctant to do online. I've been asked to do in a couple of years, and I've always been reluctant to do by online. And that is why I haven't done any for the last 2-3 years, even though I've been requested to do that. Since now it's open, so I accepted to do that. But of course, there are some people who cannot come here and who try to take and who have expressed they want to take. So for them, they can take it, but still in the long term, I think I will encourage them to take in person again in the future. Even though they can take it now online, but I will definitely encourage them to take in person in the future whenever they get any opportunity to do that.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, please.
Is now an okay time for you to explain the aspiring bodhicitta, or is tomorrow better time for that?
Maybe it might be better tomorrow, in case there are people who want to come tomorrow, who have not come today. So maybe I might do a little bit of explanation at the very beginning before it, so maybe it might be better, probably because I'm going to do tomorrow, so maybe it might be better to do a little bit before that. And the vows, when we read it sometimes it seems like, when you are just reading the vows itself, it seems like not easy and easy to break them or not to keep them. But when you go in details, when you go actually detail commentary on that, then sometimes it's not as easy to break as it feel like when you first read it, because there are many other conditions involved, and when you read it, all the conditions are not explained there. Yes, please.
Is the Geshe gave teachings of the Bodhisattvas at Siddhigarbha up in Taos? So that I recorded. And at that time, I remember Geshe, this is my recollection, Geshe pointed out how, just like what he said, it seems like some of them are kind of complicated and stuff, but after I listened to those teachings, it makes seem so much where I had no power to do it, which is.
And those are on the line with titles.
Yeah, the Siddhigarbha.
Is that accessible through our website?
No, you said the
If you give me the spell.
Yeah. Even just for the refuge, for example, the first one is not killing. But actually, when we really take the actual vows, is not killing the human beings. And if you kill the human beings, then you break the root vows. Even a lie is about spiritual lie. It's not all kind of lying. Spiritual lie is a big lie when someone lie about their spiritual realization when they don't have that realizations. So if you go through very kind of precisely each of those vows, even in terms of the 5 lay vows, root vows, that is what the main vows. Of course, we try not to lie at all. Not only spiritual lie, any kind of lie. We try not to take any kind of life. Not only human beings, any kind of life. But when taking the vow itself is more on those ones. And when you break that, then you break the root vows. Otherwise, you kind of damage the vows, but it's not breaking the root vows. So, and similarly in also Bodhisattva vows, there are many like that, just to give an example. The first vows is, not criticizing and and praising yourself, and that seems not easy to keep up, isn't it? When you see, not criticizing others, not praising yourself. But again, when you really go details, then, there's involving a certain motivation, certain particular motivations. Not all criticizing is the breaking vows. Not all praising yourself breaking vows. What kind of intention do you do criticize? With what kind of particular? So it has to have particular intentions in terms of praising with this particular expectation, particular conditions. So when you do that, then then it doesn't become, every criticizes, it doesn't become breaking that vows. Every time you praise yourself, it doesn't become your vow, breaking the root vow itself, when you go more detail in that. But when you just read that, the first vow is not criticizing and praising yourself. It seems like, so that is just to give one example of that, But of course, not only the vows, in our practice and training, of course, we try not to criticize if we don't have to criticize at all, and we don't try to pump up ourselves, praise ourselves to increase our, pride and arrogance if we don't need to, So, yeah. Okay. And I guess that is why studying becomes important, because if you are just reading the vows, then you might get a very different idea than actually if you study and read the commentaries, study the commentary, then, you feel, oh, maybe I can do that, maybe I can do that. But if you don't read the commentaries, go detail, and if you just read the vows itself, all that, it might seem much more difficult to keep them. It looks much more difficult to keep them. Okay, and so if I don't know, there should be an English translation, but I don't know. Like if you want to have more, more understanding, then there's a Lama Zopa commentary on that. There is a writing by the Indian master Asanga, the Bodhisattva Bhumi or Bodhisattva ground, a particular text called, and within that there's one chapter on the Bodhisattva vows, and then Lama Zopa has written a commentary on that that chapters, and that one's, then you can have more detailed explanation of each of those vows. I don't know exactly. I believe there is the translation, but I don't know what title it is. So like last time when I did the teaching, I was basing on that Lama Zopa commentaries, based on that Lama Zopa commentaries. And of course, that commentary is very, very long, and so, anyway, so I think that just give a little bit reference, for those who might be interested. Yeah. Yes, please.
I think I remember going to the FPMT website and looking at their reading about it there.
Mm-hmm.
Just looking at this up.
Yeah, and maybe, available to know that I can come up, just look at English titles and show them to you tomorrow beforehand, so maybe you can make some, if you recognize the from that.
Mm-hmm.
That's my suggestion.
Okay. Okay, I think that is more than all. Maybe we can try to sit a little bit and try to. So this morning, I think there wasn't time, we went very quickly, but in normal, when we have time, it is always good to start the meditation, especially on bodhicitta, You can spend long time, short time, very short time, visualizing Avalokiteshvara, the Buddha of compassions, the source of bodhicitta, and if we can, then trying to see His Holiness Dalai Lama and Avalokiteshvara in separable, Avalokiteshvara in a deity form, His Holiness in a human form, but in essence, they are one, they are same. So by seeing that, then we try to visualize Avalokiteshvara, and then we take the refuge, go for and bodhicitta, and when you have time, you can do the 4 immeasurable, and then you can do the long, medium, short, long 7-limb practice, and then visualization of cleansing, purifying, and especially cleansing and purifying all the negativities, and especially the selfish attitude, and then receiving all the blessings, and especially receiving the blessings of the loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta. And then you go in the actual body of the meditations, the actual body meditation. So as a preliminary, if you can do that a little bit, again, it can be extensive, it can be medium, it can be short, it can be very short, but it is always good to start with that kind of preliminary practices so that we have some blessings and guidance and inspiration from the Guru and from the deity, so that the meditation can become more successful, more better. Okay, so maybe at the moment today, maybe we might be able to do that a little bit. So just try to relax, make yourself comfortable. And just as you inhale and exhale, normally, naturally, try to watch it mindfully and be aware of that. So trying to bring our mind, attentions, focus here in the moment, in the present, with the breath. Then we can try to generate good intention, both to the motivations. For example, you can think the meaning of life, the purpose of life is not to be only just concerned with our own well-being and happiness. But to be able to be help and benefit to others as well. And there are so many different ways that we can be help and benefit to sentient beings. But the best way and the best benefit that we can do for them is to help them to overcome their own afflictive emotions, delusions. which are the root of all their problem, all their suffering. And to be able to help them to destroy the root of all those problems, all the delusions and selfish attitude, all the obscurations, to be able to help them to do that with our own direct experience. We ourselves first need to overcome all those afflictive emotions. And the root of those afflictive emotions, the self-grasping ignorance and selfish attitude. By generating the highest level of loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, mind, and wisdom. And by achieving fully enlightened state. Therefore, I must obtain my highest potential, the fully awakened state, as soon as possible. So I can be benefit and liberate all sentient beings from their suffering and cause of suffering. And in order to achieve that fully enlightened state, I have to create cause and condition by engaging the path, by cultivating the 5 paths and bhumis. And to do that, I need to cultivate the great compassion, bodhicitta, mind, and wisdom, renunciations. And to actualize those spiritual experience or realization, I must meditate, practice, contemplate. And so for that purpose, in order to have imprint of those realizations, I'm going to engage in this practice meditations. Then you can visualize all sentient beings surrounding yourself, engage in the practice together. And in front of you, in the space, you can visualize His Holiness Dalai Lama, but in the form of Avalokiteshvara, Chedesik. Or if it's easy for to visualize Dalai Lama himself, you can do that too. If you do visualize the Dalai Lama, then you can think it is Avalokiteshvara, the deity, the Buddha of compassion, in the form of human beings. On the other hand, is the Dalai Lama, who is in the form of, who is manifesting in this form of Avalokiteshvara, the deity. Whatever form that you visualize is coming together of all the compassionate energy of all the Buddhas. and cultivate a strong intention to cultivate true love, compassion, bodhicitta mind, just as they have cultivated. So then we can in order to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering and cause of suffering, and in order to lead them to ultimate happiness, fully enlightened state, that I'm going to go to refuge, to the Guru Avalokiteshvara, who is the Buddha, who is the Dharma, who is the Sangha, all in one. He is the Guru, he is the Yidam, or personal deity, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, all in one. And then we can wish, and try to feel, may all sentient beings have happiness and causes of happiness. May all sentient beings that is surrounding us be free from suffering and causes of suffering. Try to feel it. May all sentient beings be never separated from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from discriminating, being attached to some and holding close, and being upset, angry for some, and keeping it distant. Then we can, make a visualize, think, we make vow, we bow down or make a prostrations to Guru Avalokiteshvara. We make offerings, whole space filled with all kind of offerings. We confess all our negative karma actions that we have created. Make strong determination not to create again in the future. We rejoice in the virtues of all holy beings and all ordinary beings, the virtues of all of them. We make heartfelt requests to the Guru Avalokiteshvara to turn the wheel of Dharma and to show us the path. And we make a heartfelt request for Guru Avalokiteshvara to live forever until each and every sentient being is liberated. And we dedicate the virtues of others and oneself to fully enlightenment. Then we bring our attentions, our mind to the breath. Always coming back to the breath. And now we can try to reflect, contemplate, think, how all our problems and sufferings arise from that ego and selfish attitude. We can go through different events in our life where we are very hurt, upset, angry, miserable, unhappy. And see whether there is any involvement of the ego, selfish attitude to experience what we experience. So you can go with each event. You can especially remember some of the strong events that you feel very unhappy, miserable, upset, angry. And see, slowly, don't rush. Trying to understand why we were at that time. Is it because our ego is hurt? Is it because there was ego involved? Selfish attitude involved? Is it rooted in that or not? And observe and see. Would we have felt that way if our ego is not hurt? If there is no ego to be hurt? If there was no ego, there wouldn't be a hurt of ego. If there is not hurt of ego, we wouldn't feel ego. And we wouldn't be upset and suffer. See whether that was the case or not. And also check, other instances like, we're unhappy and miserable many times in our life because we didn't get what we want. Instead, someone got what we wanted. Someone else got maybe the job, maybe someone else the reputations, whatever that might be. If there wasn't selfish motivations, instead, if we have sense of true love and compassion, would you feel so hurt or will you be so happy to see someone you love, care, got what they want, instead of thinking miserable because I didn't get what I want, someone else got it. So we can try to see, in that way, how the ego, the selfish attitude, play the main role and the cause that lead to all this unhappy state of mind, suffering, pain. And it is that selfish attitude or ego that has stopped us from achieving our highest potential, the fully awakened state. It is that ego and selfish attitude that has stopped us from progressing on the Bodhisattva path. And the happiness on the path. It's the selfish attitude and ego that has stopped us, obstructed us from being able to cultivate true love, compassion, bodhicitta mind. It is the selfish attitude and the egoistic mind that has stopped us from practicing the Dharma pure. It is that ego and selfish attitude that made us to hurt and harm others, and as well as hurt and harm ourselves. Therefore, this selfish attitude, this ego, is the worst and real enemy. That destroy our temporary happiness and ultimate happiness. That brings so much suffering and pain to oneself and others. Therefore, from now on, I will be more mindful. And whenever I recognize this selfish attitude or ego arising, try to crush it, try to destroy it as soon as possible. In whatever way I can, with whatever tools I can. That is the practice of my life. Then again, you bring your attention back to the breath. As you breathe in, visualize, imagine, think, you bring in loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind, cherishing thought for others. As you exhale, you visualize, imagine, think that you are exhaling all this ego and selfish attitude with the air, with the breath as you exhale. You inhale, cherishing thought for others. You exhale, selfish attitude. Then you can visualize from the heart of Guru Avalokiteshvara, light and nectar flow into oneself or all sentient beings, clean and purify all the negativities. Such as all the negative karma, delusion, obscurations, especially the selfish attitudes being totally cleansed, purified, washed away. And then you again visualize from the heart of Guru Avalokiteshvara, his compassionate, enlightened wisdom, exalted wisdom, flow in the form of orange light nectar into oneself, all sentient beings. Feeling, receiving and feeling with all the blessing of body, speech and mind, enlightened body, speech and mind, all the spiritual realizations, especially the realization of loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind. Each part of our body, cells, atom is filled with that loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind. Guru Avalokiteshvara dissolve into the light dissolve into yourself. All the realizations have been stabilized. The Guru, the Yidam, or the deity, and yourself become one, inseparable. Then again, bring your attention back to the breath. And then we dedicate whatever virtues we have created by others and oneself to actualize the bodhicitta mind, to bodhicitta mind as soon as possible. Those who have already actualized, not diminish, but increase more and more. We also dedicate all the virtues to achieve fully enlightenment and liberate all sentient beings to fully enlightenment. We also dedicate for the healthy, peaceful, long life for all sentient beings. Most importantly, happy life for all sentient beings. Okay, so And this just give you a little bit kind of example how you can do it, but I think it will be good to spend really with different strong event that we have experienced, mentally disturbed, upset, angry, unhappy, and go with each of them and really see how all of that pain and the feeling of miserable or unhappiness very much rooted in that. Really understanding that how that is rooted in that ego, selfish attitude. So that when you hear the teachings that, all suffering come from selfish attitude, that it doesn't just become a word. At the moment, it's just a word for love, love. It's just a word because we still kind of feel it is outside there, someone else there. Even though we have heard that word so much, so many times, our whole life, for some, in my cases, I can say my whole life, I've been hearing that, for some of you, for 20 years, 40, 10 years, 15 years, 2 years, you have heard that so much, but still sometimes it's just a word, because again, we haven't really contemplated and really meditated on that enough to really understand, really feel on deeper level. Yes, that was the absolutely true. That was the case, And that required that kind of sitting and meditating and that. And at the moment, we kind of rush a little bit, but when you are yourself, you can go very slowly. And dealing with maybe 1 event, 2 events slowly. And then next time, again, reflect on another event, another situations, and giving enough time to reflect. And then again, other times. So basically at the end that we kind of come to conclusion, understanding, it is indeed the root of our problem and suffering and pain was that selfish attitude, without any doubt, without any hesitation, without two-minded coming to that understanding conclusion. It is. So that is the second stages of the meditations. Third stage of meditations is similar, but trying to see, all the happiness, all the joy that we experience in our life, how they come from, the state of cherishing thought for others, true happiness, how each of our happiness, temporary, ultimate happiness, again, reflecting, contemplating, meditating in similar, again, going through certain situation that make us happy in our life, When you feel so happy, why were you so happy, Because someone you love, someone you care, got good job, got married, had a children, whatever, whatever that make you so happy, why you're so happy, that happiness come from because of by experiencing someone's joy, someone's happiness. And you have happiness by seeing and feeling someone's happiness because you love, because you care about that person. And so that happiness comes from that, because it doesn't, if you don't love that person, if you don't have the compassion and love and sense of care and concern for them. When they are happy, it wouldn't make you so happy. For example, your enemy, someone you dislike, when they are happy, it might not make you so happy. Because we don't love that person. But if that person is someone we really love and care, we will be so happy when we see their happiness, when their success, when their goodness, when we see their virtues. So, again, going slowly, contemplating, meditating slowly, and trying to feel it, I think. And once you feel it, then trying to hold that feeling as much as possible. Through these meditations, the conclusions is the feeling conclusion that, without any doubt, having total convictions that indeed all this problem, suffering is coming due to that selfish attitude, that ego. So that is where, through this meditation, that is where it lead to. It has to lead to that conclusions. Having no doubt from depth of your heart, total convictions. Yes, that was the case. And same with the happiness coming from the virtues, from the cherishing thought for others, through that meditation, contemplation, practice. Conclusions is that you come, yes, all the happiness come through cherishing for others. All the happiness, indeed, without any doubt, they all come from good heart, loving kindness, compassion, cherishing for others. So conviction, that kind of convictions. And once you have that kind of conviction, that feelings, you try to hold and keep that conviction, that feelings. And on the basis of that conviction, then make strong determination in terms of selfish attitudes, to make determinations to reduce and get rid of that, to put by all the effort and practice to destroy that, in terms of cherishing thought for others, making a strong determination, commitments to cultivate that cherishing thought for others, to cultivate, and those who have already cultivated, to increase, to improve, and not to let go of that cherishing thought, no matter how challenging, how difficult the situation can arise, no matter, what happens in our life, good, bad, happy, unhappy, or whatever situation, circumstance, that I will not let go of that cherishing thought for others. I will not be separated from that cherishing thought for others. I will put all the effort to develop and improve and increase. And so trying to, at the end, we try to generate that in the main actual body of the meditations. So I guess we did a couple of meditations today. So your homework is to do more again. If you can do both, that is wonderful. If you cannot do both, at least whatever you feel like you need, or whatever you feel helpful, beneficial, you try to do that. So I think that is all for today. Any questions before our final dedications? Yes, David?
It's somewhat obvious, or it seems apparent, when one's attachment is subordinate, where we get we meet the person, you can see the self-shares of mind come up, we have suffering. You mentioned when one we love gets what they want, we're happy because of that selfless love and compassion. So where is the suffering we experience when the one we love doesn't get what we want, what they want? Is that also because we're attached to them getting what they want, and then our personal attachment is being thwarted? When I feel suffering that my friend doesn't get the job, I guess, it's something that they feel suffering.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is because of why we suffer is because of our attachments, because of our selfish attitude. Instead of our friend, someone got it, the job. Instead of our friend getting it, someone got it. Instead of being happy for someone who got it, we are unhappy because my friend didn't get it. And so again, it basically comes to kind of our selfish attitude, because I want everything best for me and just people whom I'm attached to, that I have that kind of relationship, And so, and with that, then we have a different feeling for others. And so instead of being happy, even our friend didn't get it, at least someone got it. And they're happy about it. Instead of being happy about that, we become miserable and unhappy. But if we have the love and compassion for not only for our friends, family, but even for other beings, who will be happy. At least that person got it. At least someone whom you love, care, got it. And so therefore, again, it will not be as miserable and unhappy as we become at the moment, because there is something we can be happy about it. At the moment, there is nothing, something we can be happy about it, because it didn't fulfill what we wanted. What we wanted is our friend to get it.
It's tricky, it's subtle, it's tricky, and insidious. It gets into everything.
Yes, and I think that is why, again, Shantideva, all the teachers says why the selfish attitude is involved everywhere in our sufferings. Sometimes it's so subtle, it's hard to see it, But as we study more, as we discuss more, as we contemplate more, then we are seeing more and more how they are subtle and how they are getting involved in everything. The way why we feel miserable and unhappy.
And in a way supported by society, because everybody thinks, oh, my friend, thinks this way.
Mm-hmm.
Other people support that. Oh, I'm so sorry your friend didn't get it. And then it keeps going.
Yeah, that is one of the things I think is complicating. While we want to support emotionally someone, at the same time, we don't want to encourage their delusions. Sometimes by doing that, it increases their delusions. Oh, I'm so sorry, someone was so nasty to you, thereby enforcing their anger towards someone else. While we are trying to be kind to them, supportive to them, feeling, oh, I care about you and your feeling. At the same time, the thing what we say can have effect for them to be more upset. Not I'm upset now. My friend also think that way. He also agree with me. And so, and those are kind of tricky. Sometimes when we don't think, it doesn't seem tricky, but if we go more kind of subtle and detailed, sometimes it's tricky. And how much helpful, how much not helpful, helpful on what level, unhelpful on what level, all of this become a little bit. And same with like when we try to give encouragement for someone, praising someone because we want to support them, give them encouragement. But again, sometimes that can also lead to kind of, someone feeling, better than they are, and that can increase their becoming overconfident, or maybe increasing their pride, arrogant, so anyway, yeah. So then we do the final dedications. Sentient Rinpoche, Maki Kana Ke Kyuchi, Kevanyam Vame Vanyam, Kong Me Kong Du Kevasho, flourishing on the pendant Deva Malu Tume. Sherab Sewakinde Kasoye, Shabe Sete Padu Kengu, Chanshin Jangan Jare, Ten Nyong Kewe, Kunso Tomo, Chosun Ko Wei Mong Tu Quando Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Have a good night. Thank you. Thank you.